This Fantasy Sanctuary Underdog Best Ball show. Tonight we're talking potential movers and shakers in ADP as we get closer and closer to training camp. Joined by 1/3 of the excellent Fantasy Unleashed team. And of course, we'll get into a BBM draft. Let's do this. That is right. It's Monday. I'm here. Tyler's here. But our guest this week, making his first visit to the Fantasy Sanctuary, you might recognize him by the name Surplusofcash. You might recognize his voice from the excellent Fantasy Unleashed podcast. But I know him as a true grinder, all-around good guy. Cash, how's best ball season treating you as we step into July?
Best ball season is treating me great. Underdog is treating us all great. I think that we can all tip our hats to them and just continue to provide us new, fresh tournaments. But right now, I think I'm a little bit over 100 tournaments. I'm at 63 Best Ball Mania. And yeah, thanks for having me. I'm excited to chop it up with you guys today. First time streamer. And I never did, I think, that an emo cowboy and a friend from the UK would be taking my V card, but here we are.
Happy to pop your cherry, Cash.
Yep, let's do it.
Tyler, Tyler's definitely experienced in the streaming streets after what did you do on Friday, Tyler? About 5 hours of streaming?
I don't remember. It was a blur, but we had a good time, and it was just clicking a lot of buttons, baby.
What were you doing, Tyler? You do some of the schnauzers? You jump in those streets?
Yeah, we had Pete on for BBM. Then I did a bunch of the 10-second schnauzers, giving the people what they want, just a lot of quick trigger stuff, and then jumped on with Meg over on FanSpeak to do another BBM. So slow, fast. You just gotta, you
mix it up.
You gotta work the hips. You gotta keep the rhythm going. Change it up, keep it fun. Yeah, it was a good time. Was very tired though, so I was like, Pete doing those 4-hour Monday mornings. I'm like, at the end of my day, that was easy, just like sit on the couch and just go off. But him doing that to start his day off, that's something else.
What was your ranking? 10 second, 15, 20?
Oh, man. If I'm on desktop, it's 10. 10 was like being able to crank out a draft in like 20 minutes, elite. On my phone with the lag and like getting an issue and then having to jump back in and it wrecking everything, 15 was like the nice little sweet spot of like a couple seconds to get out of pull nosedive out of like a bad near auto draft from like the lag. So the 10 was nice. I could see 15 being like kind of like the normal, quicker 25-minute draft. It was a lot of good fun.
Yeah, I absolutely love just the 10. Like you really can cook through a lot of volume with a 10-second clock, just really fast. The one thing that I'll say is I messed around trying to do a little bit of the Underdog Cardio Club multiple, and just no bueno at 10 seconds. I tried 3, and those are the kind of teams where sometimes you just don't have to post everything on Twitter.
Shadow ban yourself.
Yeah, we got comment in the chat from FanSpeak Network. The handlebar mustache looks too good. Tyler said he'd do the handlebar mustache if we hit over 100 likes on the video on Pete. Keep giving us 100 likes on the videos, and let's see what Tyler will do next. There is no limits to this.
So the wife's actually happy with that one.
Before we get into a BBM draft, though, Cash, you break down ADP movers and shifters on Fantasy Unleashed podcast, which everybody should be subscribed to. It's an incredible pod. And this weekend, I was listening to your latest episode. You were talking about targets and fades, and there's one name that kind of stood out to me as being the most interesting at the minute. CJ Stroud, he's falling, but we know the casuals are coming. Do you think that as they get into the lobbies, he gets pushed back up because we're all like, oh shit, man, CJ Stroud, he's got so many weapons? Or is the correction going to continue and it's just the dual threats who get pushed further up?
Yeah, I don't think that the casuals are gonna jump him or bounce him back. Right now we're in a free fall. Specifically, when you look at CJ Stroud, I want to talk out of the last 17 days, 16 days, he's in the red. So this is a hard cliff specifically for CJ Stroud, and for me, it's been a fade up to this point, and just kind of playing into that momentum. And, we talk about different windows and with different windows of opportunity within the information timeline. and I'll continue to play it like he's going to continue to fall. And I actually think that we could potentially be looking at a 6th, 7th round type price tag, like towards that 6-7 turn, because right now, like, we're nearly approaching where he's going to come back to Nico as Nico's working his way up the first round. And I don't even know if that's going to be sticky. I know that, like, Tyler, you're in the streets a lot. I'm sure that you're seeing some 7th round CJ Stroud even.
I mean, I got him in the 8th the other day, so I think
boy.
I know. I think it's like when you said the casuals aren't probably going to push him back up, my reflex was, nah, man. I was there with the Burrow thing, and they're just like, I just got to have him. And I see that happen every once in a while with like no offense to the Badgers drafters, but Badgers drafters sees him like 2 picks after ADP, snap, pick him up. But with all the volume I'm doing, what I'm noticing is that they prefer the running backs more than they do the standalone quarterback, because they think, like, fill the lineup. Oh, these guys are in the 6th, 7th round. So you might be right with him, kind of like, especially if rankings, they kind of like anchor him within 10 picks of ADP. If he shifts closer to that, like, Joe Burrow, Kyler Murray ADP, and the running back shift up, well, then he's got nowhere to move up. And Nico, I don't think Nico's going to rise above the running backs either when they come in. I think Saquon and JT and those guys, Henry, push further up into the 2nd round, push those guys, down around the turn. That makes a lot of sense based on the last few years of drafting and what I'm kind of seeing right now.
Yeah, and I mean, we've seen this before too, where right out of the gates, big board. You think a couple years ago, specifically with Joe Burrow, where Joe Burrow was right on that 4-5 turn. You think about it last year with Trevor Lawrence. He was on the 4-5 turn, and then you ended up seeing a 2-round drop for both of them, where they ended up going to the 6-7 turn. I think that this is going to be just relatively similar overall, but I've been wrong before. But I also think that you do make a strong point. Just, we get more casuals where I think that objectively sometimes we you can try to categorize casuals as based off the amount of drafts that they're actually completing. But the one thing that I'm seeing a lot within the streets right now is, like, even if they're just jumping in for a couple drafts here or there, that they're sorry, I lost my train of thought there.
But it's people who are drafting more often than they would have done in previous years, isn't it? So even
it's still an addictive thing to do, even if you're not doing sicko volume like we are, And
yeah. So like, I think that, like, you can't put a number on it objectively, like the amount of drafts that somebody's actually doing, because at this time of year and earlier within the year, I think that there's so much more content out there where people are just absorbing content that they're actually building smarter teams. Whereas we start to get to the point here later in the year, like July, August, you're going to have a lot of people that are coming in, more casuals, to your point. I think it's a good point, starting to probably drive up running backs in total. So like the Saquon Barkleys of the world, and like you even get to like some of the names specifically within the end of the 4th and 5th round, where I think that there's some additional value.
Yeah, well, let's jump into a draft and we can hit on some more of these as we go while we wait for that to fill. If you haven't already, do hit the subscribe button. Last week we had shows with Pete Overzet, Steph Miller of Legendary Upside, Eric Byrne for Spike Week. This week we've got Chris Allen of Fantasy Life on Wednesday, Bindles next Monday, the nicest guy in the best ball streets, Dwayne McFarlane next Monday, Underdog on Mondays, DraftKings on Wednesdays, Rich powering out the Dynasty content. We're already planning redraft season. We've got everything you need. In terms of a chat, shout out Amiga King here. Caught the sound of your voice, Cash, and just had to come back to see your pretty face on screen for the first time. We are...
Thanks for stopping in, Omega.
A true grinder in the streets. Everybody knows that name. This is fine saying, I think now is a good time to take those round 6 to 10 running backs. August drafters are going to pull them up towards the elites, then the elites will be a better relative value. Yeah, I mean, somebody should make a video about how the running backs in the pick range of round 73, pick 73 to 110, a really good value. I mean, if you want to check that out.
Some might even call that area the glory hole.
Well, it's funny you should say that, because a certain podcast today put out a episode where we called that the running back dream zone, and you know, the lawyers will be in touch, but we'll see.
Well, Tom, you can dream about glory hole running backs.
Yeah, where'd you get this the glory hole from? Because I mean, it kind of sounds like best ball brunch 2.0 kind of deal here.
Well,
it's a drilling term.
Yeah, it's a mining term, and apparently, you know, people have informed me that that's not the only use of that phrase, but it's a mining term. It was used by miners going back well over 100 years ago for a buildup of gold in a small place. But yeah, if people want to interpret it otherwise, then that's all good. We are what we have the pick 1010.
And
Cash, what are you doing at the back end of the turns in the drafts? Are you starting to pull players up and get different, or are you just taking ADP as it comes?
Well, I've had plenty of experience back here at the end of the drafts. I feel like I just keep landing really within the 10 to 12 spot. I mean, I'm absolutely prioritizing at least one wide receiver. Sometimes, you know, we'll get to the point to see which wide receiver is available there at the end, but I'll take another running back. But this is one of the things I've continued to talk about, where I really feel like on this side of the board that you have to make a point to be able to prioritize wide receivers within the first 4 rounds, just because you end up getting really to round 7 and round 8, right on that, you know, really within the glory hole. And then it seems to be a tier break of wide receivers in round 9. And it just doesn't seem like on that side of the board that there's a lot of pockets of value specifically for wide receivers later within the draft.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Tom. I was curious, like, you know, in the first 4 rounds, is there an ADP that you just find extremely egregious and you're avoiding until potentially moving downwards over the course of the summer that you feel pretty strongly should or would?
So as of right now, like Sam Laporta just hasn't been a name that I've clicked at all. And that's more so like it's not even like a big negative. And the majority of all the players and that I'm thinking about drafting or not drafting, like every player has a price. Like nobody's just an absolute no for me. Yeah. I'm thinking AJ Brown here.
Yeah, I'm loving AJ Brown at 10.
Yeah,
back where he belongs.
Yeah, and even if you look at some micro sentiment here over the last week or so, AJ Brown up nearly almost a spot, and Bijan and Breece Hall slowly starting to fall. So when all is said and done, especially in this particular environment this year where the rooms are just continuing to prioritize wide receiver, I wouldn't even be completely shocked if we continue to see AJ Brown move up a little bit.
So just going back to Sam Laporta, I know you're also a little down on Kelsey, preferring Andrews, Kittle, Ferguson, Goddard, Henry, those tight ends like at cost. And we can answer this after we make our pick in a moment. But go on, let's Drake London for me. I'd be happy with Chris Olave, Ayuk. Where we going, Cash?
I would be in for Brandon Ayuk here.
Nice,
spicy. I like it.
So Sam Laporta, like, do you think Kelsey flips him and then it stops for Laporta, or you know, there's so much correlation early on?
Yeah, I think that Kelsey ends up. I think that they end up flipping when all is said and done. But Kelsey hasn't been a tight end that I've been drafting either. Initially, like right out of the gate with Ball Mania, and to the point of just sickos and the degens, you saw just the quick snap of Laporta like slowly starting to climb within the 3rd round. And like part of that was the correlation. You have the other San Francisco guys that are going on the 2-3 turn. But since, you know, over the last month, he was actually one of the biggest losers for the month of June as a percentage of ADP. So like he's been working his way that way. But no, like for me, it's more so I think that tight end in total is just overall pretty deep. When you're looking at the range of 1 to 12, down to Dallas Goedert. So I just don't feel like I need to be taking those two when I can get other value later, where I actually think that there's a legitimate range of outcomes where, you know, some of the tight ends like Jake Ferguson's a guy that I've talked about could end up being potentially top 5 at the position.
Yeah, and I don't think that that's one which, when the casuals as such enter the lobbies over the next month, I don't think that they're going to push Sam Laporta up necessarily. Like I was doing a show today on Fantasy Pros, and we were looking at the expert consensus rankings, which gather over 100 different rankings from across the industry. And there, in the last couple of weeks, Travis Kelce has flipped Sam Laporta. Sam Laporta's fallen 5 spots. Travis Kelce's climbed 2 spots, 3 spots, and now he's for tight end 1. So it really wouldn't surprise me to see Travis Kelce become the consensus tight end 1 with a little bit of a gap to Sam Laporta. I know most people in the industry seem to be pushing Mark Andrews at his price. Is there a point where you'd stop drafting Mark Andrews if you got closer to Sam Laporta, or would you be comfortable taking him as tight end 2?
Yeah, I think that there would, just because like right now within my portfolio, like I'm pretty hard that I think that Mark Andrews, when all is said and done, I think that he ends up working his way. Like there's going to be one or two things that ends up happening. It's just going to end up being Lamar and Mark Andrews on that 4-5 turn for the rest of best ball summer. And that just like ends up being a very popular combination. Or you just continue to get the type of drumbeat like you're talking about with Mark Andrews, where, Mark Andrews has historically been elite. Again, it's like your point, Tyler, of the casuals jumping in, just like knowing that Mark Andrews has been an elite tight end historically that we've been targeting. And then Mark Andrews doesn't need to be a player within the market where he needs to be attached to a guy like Lamar. And I think that you could start to see him work his way up the 4th round. And then at that point, it ends up being a stack that's difficult to be able to get. Tom, is there a I don't know, just okay, there we go. Just the available players. I wasn't sure.
Tyler, you got a strong lean here, Cash?
I really don't have a strong lean.
Go ahead, Cash.
5 seconds.
So yeah, I'm fine with Tank Dell here.
Okay.
Cool. Well, I mean, we can always play this from where we started with CJ Stroud and see how far he falls, see how far we can push it. It seems like a fairly, decent room so far. We've seen it be quite wide receiver heavy, which isn't always indicating that it's the sharpest room, but I like to think so. So when this comes back around, we've seen Zay Flowers go off the board. So that week 17 correlations out of the question. Sam Laporta is falling a little bit here. Not much, just a couple of spots past ADP. Cash, do you want to keep going with wide receiver and really make sure that we've got that nailed down, or look at the Lamar Jackson kind of correlation to give us a bit of a build, and we can look at later stacks with him? Anyone else?
I'm into Jalen Hurts here.
Okay.
Nice.
Yep.
I'm into Jalen Hurts.
I just wanted to
alpha.
bait the people away. If they're watching the stream, they're like, "Oh, he's going to double tap receiver." Nah, bitch, we're going to get the alpha stack.
Yeah, we'll take the alpha, and like I get that this is overall for the field that it's been a relatively popular stack to be able to get, but like when I'm thinking about my particular portfolio, it's not. I don't have the opportunity always to be able to get AJ Brown. So when I am able to get AJ Brown and Jalen Hurts, I've been trying to capitalize on it.
And I don't even know how, it's popular, but I'm seeing Jalen Hurts fall near the back end of the 4-5 round turn to try to stack with CD and Devonta. So it's like, yeah, it can be a popular stack. That doesn't mean it's happening 80% of the time, because plenty of people are pushing or getting random combos or, whatever. And I do have to make an observation that looks like we're in a pretty half and half room. We've got, probably like 3, 4, 5 folks watching the stream here with us live. Thank you very much for ruining our EV, with probably 4 or 5 very normal type of drafters. So this should be a little fun room of playing chicken, pushing things and trying to capture some pockets.
Yeah. Cash, how far into your BBM maxing out are you? Are you going to max out, or
I'm at 63. I'm definitely going to be maxing. Maxing is just a requirement that pretty much at this point. But Yeah, no, I'm at 63. First month, and like I'm being very strategic about it. First month was 40. Then last month I did 23. And pretty much what I'll do now is kind of take my foot off the gas pedal specifically for best Ball Mania, cycle into some other, like hopefully Underdog continues to launch some of these snapshot tournaments over the weekend. And then towards the end of the month, I think that overall, like this is one of the very first things that I talked about this year. One of the best times I think just to be able to draft is towards the end of the month of July, because it's really your last opportunity for like, I know better than the market, and before you see those big ADP moves. And you couple that with historically, when you look at the month of July, the month of July is just like rookies just kind of get lost within the shuffle, because right when Best Ball Mania launches, you get the knee-jerk reaction where everyone's like really excited about the rookies. You have the majority of content that's being created is about the rookies, and then there's just that silent kind of lack of information time period where rookies in total fall. So like the month of July, rookies kind of fall, and then like I want to have more exposure to rookies and just really solidify some of my takes, trying to get ahead of the market before the storm of August.
Two of the BBM winners came in the month of July. Fun fact.
I actually did not know that.
So what we've set with 1030 at the minute with Jalen Hurts, AJ Brown, Brandon Ayuk, and Tank Dell. Feels like the wide receiver cliff edge is coming pretty quickly. I like Keenan Allen. Kind of prefer DeAndre Hopkins later. Cash, any leans here?
Yeah, I like Keenan Allen.
Okay.
You good with that, Tyler?
Yep. I'm a cromulent wide receiver 4.
Cash, in terms of those Chicago wide receivers, how are you playing it?
I want exposure to DJ Moore. I think that DJ Moore is the most, he's like pretty polarizing just because he's the premium priced of the three. And I just want to play into, we finally saw it with DJ Moore. This is going to be the best quarterback that DJ Moore has ever played with. And I mean, he was just truly elite, relative to efficiency last year, yards per route run. So I'm leaning DJ Moore. I get the case for Odunze. What do you guys think about just? I mean, we're really going to be leaning into zero here. What do you think about George Kittle?
I like George Kittle. Yeah, it works for me. Tyler?
I love a good San Francisco stack. You can't go wrong stacking good teams in a tournament that both plays on advancement and a 3-week sprint.
And, you know, George Kittle showed us last year that he was less touchdown reliant than he was the previous year. So whereas last year I was a little bit out on him and a little bit worried, I still think he's completely fine. And yes, he takes a lot of hits and he always seems to be injured. But at this price, it just feels fine.
Famously played through a hurt groin all last year and only didn't meet his normal expectations because of just a few touchdowns that he didn't get. You can call that variance. You can call that whatever you want. I would call that variance. And on top of that, so we got that operated on. And on top of that, power of zero running back is adding firepower at the elite onesies, which I feel like we did very well while also stacking that bitch up. So I love that move.
Yeah. Cash, what kind of percentage of your portfolio would you say is zero running back? Because it feels like everyone we have on here, that's where they're going heavy. We yet to meet anyone on.
Yeah, like whatever ingredients the kitchen provides to me. Like I'm trying to bake whatever the best thing I can is. But I would probably say 25%. Like it's never for me like I'm going in with like I have to have this particular draft strategy. Sometimes I'm leaning into like a modified sort of anchor, like the running backs within the round 5 range, like Pacheco, Josh Jacobs, Joe Mixon. But no, I'd probably say like about 25%. And I actually think that even though right now it feels a little bit uncomfortable, choosing some of the running backs that are going in rounds 15 through 18, just because it's not 100% that they're going to be the secure RB2 within that particular backfield and the handcuff to the RB1 for whatever that team is. that's a pretty opportune time to be able to lean into some of those running backs if you're feeling good that they are going to be the running back 2 on the team. I find myself doing a lot of like 2-6-8-2 and a lot of 2-7-7-2 actually when I'm going 0 RB.
Yeah, that
nice.
makes sense.
Do you kind of feel like you're going to start building differently over the next month as drafts get a bit different and we get more information?
The month of August, I'll definitely lean harder into 0 RB just because like there's kind of two sides of the coin. One side of the coin is I like to be able to go some 0 RB right now and mix it in with my portfolio. Say it's 25% because I think that just there's a lot of RB2s that are underpriced later within drafts. But within August, I like to lean more into it in total just because I for sure like we have the information. It's looking more solidified for the backfield. I think it's just overall a better time. Like if you're a more casual drafter, I think that August is the month where you want to be leaning more into 0 RB.
Absolutely.
Nice. So what, we're one pick away. David Montgomery, Kyler Murray, Ramondre Stevenson, Jake Ferguson.
Oh yeah, let's get some week 17 correlation here, fellas.
All right. Love a good hefty grown ass man anchor with goal line and a top 10 offense as your RB1. It's delightful.
I mean, I've got to ask though, was that the week 17 correlation you were going for, Cash, or was it Jake Ferguson?
I mean, we had to like with this build. I mean, we have multiple options for Philadelphia to be able to get Dallas. I like being able to get Jake Ferguson, but on this particular build, now that we've already allocated to George Kittle, I don't know if I need to go Jake Ferguson here. I actually think that we just do a double tap with the glory hole.
Music to my ears. So we've got Jonathan Brooks, Amir White, Jalen Warren. Last week with Steph on the channel, like I pushed for us to do a 0 RB build with Najee Harris instead of Jalen Warren to kind of give us a different look, and it felt like it kind of turned out all right. But here, I'm happy with Jonathan Brooks. I'm happy with Jalen Warren. I know you're big on Zach Moss. Do you want to make a pitch for that?
Yeah, I mean, I like Zach Moss. Zach Moss is my highest exposed running back. For me, it would be Zach Moss here. But with that being said, like I'm perfectly fine with any of Zach Moss, DeAndre Swift, or I don't want to go actually DeAndre Swift because I don't want to double up on Chicago here. I'm fine with Zach Moss.
So how much are you leaning Zach Moss over Chase Brown? Are you taking any Chase Brown, or is it just like real strong conviction on Moss?
I have about a third of the exposure of Chase Brown that I do Zach Moss. So right now with Zach Moss, I'm at like 25%. I think I'm at like between 8 and 10% on Chase Brown. So I have a higher degree of conviction. I think it's going to be Zach Moss that emerges from this particular backfield. Like I'm leaning more in the camp that it's not going to be so much of a split. And if it ends up being a split, I think that Zach Moss is going to be the running back that ends up getting the high value touches around the goal line. Do you like? I'm interested to hear what you guys have to say because this is one area where I find myself like, am I making potentially the same mistake that I made last year, where within my portfolio, like for Buffalo last year, I was higher exposed Damian Harris than I was James Cook. Should I be leaning more into the younger, more electric running back in Chase Brown? Like, are you guys leaning more Chase Brown here?
I am leaning more Chase Brown because just generally with these ambiguous backfields, I just tend to play the cheaper side of it. I've got 2% Zach Moss, and let me just see, Chase Brown, I'm at 15%. But in the area where Zach Moss goes, quite often reaching slightly for Jalen Warren, who I've got 33%, 15% Jonathan Brooks. You know, I still like some of the wide receivers in that range where Zach Moss goes. You know, I've got 15% Brian Thomas. I've got 15% Jackson Smith and Jigba. I also like Brock Bowers. I also like Curtis Samuel. So it's kind of like there's just a few too many options there for me to really get on Zach Moss when I kind of like the next round for really making sure I get into that position. But how about you, Tyler?
So I just checked my exposures to double check my answer. So right now I'm at about 9% Brown, 4.5% Moss. And the reason why I'm definitely higher on Brown than Moss, even though if you gave me like in a vacuum, I'd prefer Moss because I think I agree with you that like profile wise, payment wise, and recent history, Moss probably profiles as that likelier goal line back guy. That said, and I think Chase Brown probably offers less like pass catching utility than folks realize. They're starting to realize that now with the whole like, hey, looks like the Bengals still need a third down pass catching, pass blocking running back. Well, Zach Moss does pass block well. I don't know that I'm buying into like the P Ryan return speculation fear shit. But that said, I don't like Moss straight up more than I like Warren, Brooks, or James Conner. So I'm adding those guys more often. I also have a lot of like Rams, Cardinals stacks, so I'll lean correlation there at times as well. So so I'm taking the cheap guy who I don't like him as much in a vacuum as some of my other folks, but I know that he has enough juice that he could get there on limited touches. We are on the clock. Let's see. Anybody standing out immediately?
Brian Robinson's my guy here.
I'm big on him as well. I think the wide receivers here all pretty much look the same to me. So I'm fine taking my preferred running back and pushing the next pick based on who's there. Thoughts?
Yeah, I'm good with that. I mean, Brian Robinson for me, I'm at 24%. I kind of keep banging on about how it's just a nice play hedging against Austin Eckler, who's dusty, coming off career lows and a bunch of stats. I think the Cliff Kingsbury offense is going to keep Brian Robinson on the field because it's no huddle and he's going to catch more balls than people expect. And Jaden Daniels isn't the kind of quarterback who does a lot of rushing around the goal line. That's going to be Brian Robinson. Meanwhile, Austin Eckler is just going to be fielding punt returns.
Yeah, I'm super high on Brian Robinson. He was my most drafted player and running back until the last couple weeks when I got much heavier on Marshawn Lloyd.
Nice. Shout out to everyone in the chat. Appreciate we've neglected you a little over the last 10 minutes or so. Coming in to drop a quick like at Dart League and go to watch later. Very much appreciate that, James. If you haven't already, do hit the subscribe button. Back on Wednesday with Chris Allen of Fantasy Life for DraftKings Draft. What's standing out to you here, Cash? Are you interested at all in the Caleb Williams sort of take that and maybe be done at quarterback or keep pushing?
What
Caleb
about
goes.
what about Purdy here?
Yep.
We got him double stacked.
And
I will
then
just peek at the board to see if we can get a little tricky with pushing. CMC Drafter could easily take him.
Debo's a couple away with no quarterback at Debo in the middle. Yeah.
Yeah, he's probably not coming back. I'm okay here with it. If y'all want to be done with quarterback here.
Yeah, I'm cool with that.
Okay.
Yeah, it works for me.
Cool.
So Cash, like, what's your feel on this team? What kind of roster makeup we'd be looking at by the time we finish as we're kind of sitting here through 10 rounds?
I mean, I think it all depends on your like how you feel about George Kittle. I think that George Kittle's a perfectly fine tight end to roll with too. So because of that, like I'd be perfectly fine going with like a 2.6, 8.2 type of build, or if we want to be able to add in a third tight end, then like probably like 2.6, 7.3. But like I would be leaning really between those two. But at the same time, if we end up getting value that slips to us at say running back where we end up feeling better and it's turns into like a 5 RB type build, then I'd be open to that too.
I mean, these guys give us access to that for sure if we wanted to push it.
Yeah, I was saying on our stream with Pete on Friday that typically when I take George Kittle, I end up building with 3 tight ends, and Pete gave me a bit of a telling off about it. But I did point out most of my drafting is done on 20 round formats. So I'm definitely open to it. And the team we built with Pete, I believe we stopped at 2 tight ends, or did we go 3 in the end, Tyler? I can't remember.
Timothy, I drafted like 20 teams, and then I drafted another 20 over the weekend. I don't remember.
Yeah, it's all starting to blur into one of it. Just a permanent state of waking up to being on the clock in about 40 different leagues at once.
Yeah.
Cash, are you fast draft or a mix of both?
Yeah, I'm fast. I'm fast only, man. I just can't do the slows.
This feels like a slow, by the way. This is crawling. I am dying inside these picks. I'm used to turning my back and then I'm on the clock, and this is an eternity.
There's all the schnauzers over the weekend.
I got high on the supply of schnauz, and now I'm over here just feeling like the world is just spinning slowly.
Feeling like Neo in the Matrix, just bullet timing your way through drafts.
Who needs more than 10 seconds to make a pick? Come on, people.
Yeah, I thought about doing 5 drafts at once last week on a stream when I had a guest drop out kind of close to last minute. And then I realized that DraftKings, I couldn't possibly fill 5 drafts at once at the minute because the lobbies are so dead over there. But sooner or later, as the summer picks up, we'll get cranking on the multi-draft streams.
I did want to go back to like the Cincinnati backs. I think you want to target that backfield. I don't know if you want to be super confident like to that degree, unless that's just something you are willing to push it on like a risk thing and a profile bet thing. And yeah, I don't mind going cheap. I am slamming Jacoby Myers here. I don't know about y'all.
Yeah, I'm cool with Jacoby.
Do us a favor, Tyler. Service the audio listeners when you can.
I would love to service them as we watch the red clock tick down. We will be at a 2-3-5-1 at the 11 pick. We are Jalen Hurts, Brock Purdy, David Montgomery, Zach Moss, Brian Robinson Jr., AJ Brown, Brandon Ayuk, Tank Dell, Keenan Allen, Jacoby Myers, and George Kittle at tight end. So yeah, I think I like Zach Moss plenty. I do want to acknowledge that like in a week 17 format like BBM, that he could kind of run out of juice a little bit, and the team just decide to give more of that early work mixing into the young guy with, I almost called juicy legs, but I'll just stick with it, juicy legs. And not sure, not super confident. Chase Brown falling enough now, right where we're picking here at the 11-12 turn. That's probably where I'm getting most of him right now. It's just falling to that 130s where he feels like an equally similar bet as a lot of these running backs with a pretty decent standalone shot. So if Zach Moss gets cheaper, I'll be able to load up more on him. I think good to keep an open mind about just mixing in those guys because you don't know how injury or usage will go over the past week 7. I'm not sure how the team will want to build out. What are we feeling like right here?
What do you think about just getting a little mini correlation with Sharps and Keenan Allen?
Yeah, like that.
I like it.
Yeah, I've been drafting plenty of Zach Charbonnet, and yeah, like his rookie season wasn't particularly impressive, but when you look at this new offensive coordinator, Ryan Grubb, everyone expects him to be good. Everyone expects Seahawks to play interesting offense, and Kenneth Walker hasn't exactly been the most durable running back. He's not missed sizable amounts of time, but I think if Kenneth Walker ends up out, then you're talking about a top 24 running back every week for Charbonnet just on volume alone.
Well, famously, new head coach, new OC. There's no the market being this confident that one guy's got the main starting role and the other guy doesn't is ridiculous to me, like price wise. So getting Charbonnet at like a handcuff semi standalone value price whenever this could be a 50-50 split backfield right from the jump. We have no indication right now with how the new head coach and OC are gonna run things. And seemingly, Walker's got that home run ability, but Charbonnet just as many explosive runs as Walker did, seemingly a better pass down back, and this offense is going to be more efficient via the pass. So yeah, I love Charbonnet here.
Yeah, that's really how I've been playing the backfield too. I love Kenneth Walker as a player, but just the difference within price, I'm just playing the backfield through the cheaper piece.
Cash, what's if you had to say one kind of conviction that you have about 2024 best ball, what would it be?
Just overall, I would say at this point now, my highest exposure probably isn't a reflection of what it could end up being. I'm highest exposed to the Commanders offense in total, But so much of that is like, again, trying to take advantage of different windows of time. And like 40 of my best ball manias of my 63 was within that first month. And I was just being really, really aggressive on Jaden Daniels and the Commander stuff, trying to get ahead of the curve. So I could see myself taking my foot off the gas pedal a little bit. And so with that being said, I think that just the best construction that I really, really love is the Jacksonville Jaguars. And I can see myself just continuing to go down that rabbit hole just up until the actual NFL season. I love Brian Thomas Jr. I think that range of outcomes, even though I like Christian Kirk, I think that next year we could end up we could be like, oh, this was staring us right in the eyes, that the higher ceiling between the two, Christian Kirk and BTJ, was BTJ. And I think that like Brian Thomas Jr., would we be surprised if he'd be like a second round pick next year, just with the red zone opportunity that's been vacated with the departure of Calvin Ridley, them needing that true X. Like, I just feel really, really good about Brian Thomas Jr. within that 6th round as a piece of the Jacksonville Jaguar stacks, with the year-over-year reduction in price of Trevor Lawrence. Like, I want to play into that, and I want to play into that aggressively.
I'm overcome with the Holy Spirit. You're preaching to the choir, brother. Oh God, give me all of that.
Relative athletic score just off the charts with Brian
grown ass man.
Grown ass man. Like, I feel like he just kind of gets brushed underneath the rug compared to the other high draft capital wide receivers, because they were all top 10. It's like you forget that he went 22nd overall or whatever. I'm down to do whatever. Do you guys want to just take the value in Cole Kmet?
Well, he also correlates with our Chicago stuff, so
Yep.
It makes sense there. It gives us an out to stick only with 2. Do we want to get a wide receiver, or I guess we can talk through like what we like in this spot? I feel like
I'm good to push wide receiver to the next pick. I think.
I actually like doing this a lot too. Taking two pass catchers from what could potentially be an elite offense, even though we don't have the quarterback correlated within the stack.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, he definitely wasn't coming back, because I think Caleb Drafter was around us. Sorry, go ahead, Tom.
No, I was just gonna say, so we're a couple of picks away, and like we could be done at quarterback, we can be done at tight end, unless something really falls to us. So we've got running back and wide receiver really where we can concentrate on. Either of you guys got a strong lean on where you want to go there. In plenty of Tyler Algier. I think he's probably the best backup running back in the league. I also like Rashad Bateman, but I don't need to mention that. I know Tyler doesn't like to hear that. And then Roman Wilson's fallen, but yeah, go on, guys.
Yeah, I mean, whatever you want to do here, Tyler.
I think if we take Algier here, we could potentially shut it down at 5 running backs and just crank out receiver to finish this draft up. Maybe add another running back late if it just goes that way. I don't really think the wide receiver tier here is anything impressive. And I think we'll like the next pocket just fine. Whereas the running backs I think that's a huge tier break here. Plus we get that correlated, piece of we've not taken Eckler, we've not taken Bijan, but we've taken their direct backups. So I think that made sense in this build as well.
Yep.
Yeah. So just going back to the Jags talk that we were doing before. So I say I launched a new podcast today with Andrew Erickson from FantasyPros, looking at ADP rises and fallers. And we were looking at some of the guys that people have moved up in the expert consensus rankings, which is a mix of 100 different experts across the industry, their rankings. And there's definitely more of a redraft spin towards them than best ball. And we know Jacob Sanderson had that tweet with Eric Moody saying, the gulf between best ball and traditional redraft is so massive. Well, Travis Etienne's up 6 spots in the last month on the ECR to 15th overall. Whereas you look at him on Underdog, 43rd, 36th on DraftKings, 47th on Drafters. The only place he's kind of going near to that ECR ranking of a top 20 pick is FFPC, which we know tends to be a bit running back heavy. When I saw that, my first thought was I don't want any Travis Etienne at pick 15 overall, and I doubt in most of the drafts I'm going to do, he's going to be taken there. But it kind of made me think a little bit, okay, well, if Travis Etienne is the kind of player who people are still quite high on because he finished as like RB6 in points per game last year, RB3 in total points, then maybe it's worth starting to get a little more exposure to him. So far, he's been a pretty hard fade for me. Have you guys been taking much?
He's a player that I haven't been taking a lot of, but he's a player where like I'm going to make a point to be at late.
You're talking about ETN?
Yeah.
I'm taking him when he falls. I'm finding him fall plenty of times in these wide receiver heavy rooms to like anywhere from 51 to 54. And then at that point, I think given kind of a slight tier break in wide receiver, I'm fine mixing him in and making him that like, anchor running back. It never feels good because he's decently talented, but not as much in the pass game as he was sold. And his coaching staff has spent 2 years straight talking about how much they want to take off his plate. And I have to just get on board with that's fine as like a 5th round pick because of his youth and because of his like juice and because of the offense. But man, it just mentally doesn't feel good for me.
Yeah. So
are you drafting Tank Bigsby? What about
no? Because he sucks. So I'm not really sure what to do with his backfield because it feels ripe for a free agent addition or trade. I think wide receiver here. Do we like Mims, McCaffrey, Michael Wilson? What do we like?
I think Michael Wilson, you'll get positive CLV when all is said and done with Michael Wilson, but you have the week 17 correlation with Mims, and yeah, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I don't think
let's lean that way. I think
it's another little mini.
Player. Go ahead.
It's another little mini Marvin Mims and Zach Moss, and like within this particular range for me. It also too is with Marvin Mims. Like we were so incredibly excited about Marvin Mims last year. Marvin Mims was down the stretch just an absolute market darling. He was falling. He made his way to the 15th round, and then he climbed all the way to the 10th round. And now it's like behind Cortland Sutton, there's pretty much no competition at all. Potential holdout like with Cortland Sutton. So what are you thinking here? You want to go with another wide receiver? I think that another wide, like I think Luke McCaffrey, you could see positive CLV. This is a pretty steep fall for Chuba.
Yeah, I'm good with Luke McCaffrey. Although unless you want to scoop the value.
I think wide receiver here makes more sense given the tier, given access to like we pushed it a while. So I think the only way to truly make it up without falling super behind is betting on rookies and year 2 guys who have just wide range of outcomes. Luke McCaffrey also correlates with our Brian Robinson and Tyler Algier game stack. It kind of, fades a pretty poor year 3 player profile in Jahan Dotson. McCaffrey, a guy we mentioned, RAS, who's got like just an awesome RAS. So, talking about investing in, a pretty underpriced, but potentially high octane, high efficient up tempo offense in Washington. I think that's just something to definitely mix in, especially for like, week 15, 16, 17, definitely a piece I think made more sense to add, especially with Chuba kind of being a, more of an early season guy in an offense. I don't know that we needed that as much. I think wide receiver there was more prudent, given the correlation, the team stack, and the profile.
And have you guys considered that we've got a Breakfast Club narrative in play because apparently Luke McCaffrey and Jaden Daniels are the first guys in the building every day, arriving at the same time, getting in those extra reps.
This year's Puka?
I mean, somebody's going to say it soon.
So like McCaffrey's a guy I mix in quite a bit because I have so much Jaden Daniels, and I don't like taking Jahan Dotson very much. I'd rather and McCaffrey's a guy who could claim more work in camp. And you mentioned that July quiet zone, but the second we start getting into like close to preseason stuff, this is a guy that could easily just mix in as he looks like he could be like the replacement for Curtis Samuel. And what if he's more than that? So I kind of like that bet in the 16th round with kind of the open box. And Marvin Mims, I'm not taking a whole lot, but he's got a role on special teams with the new return rules. He's explosive. Deep pass, it's either him or Troy Franklin. Maybe it's both. We don't know what happens with Sutton. So yeah, I think both guys make sense there at cost in this build to just target.
Yeah, so we're coming up on our last two picks here. We got the 2572. What do we think? Is there anybody at running back that we really want? Tyler, I know you draft plenty of Clyde Edwards-Helaire.
I do.
Cash, anybody in this kind of range that you like at running back?
I think that I personally think that we can do a 2682 here.
Yeah, I'm good with that.
Because we got the value on Cole Kmet. We can just really play into that we got a discount on what can end up being a solid player.
So who do you like here?
Have a feeling. Let's do CEH.
Okay. Yeah. I think you talked about undervalued RB2s. I mean, he could be Jet last year, a 34-year-old kind of shitty player who got plenty of pass down work mixed in every once in a while in the red zone. CEH is bad, but he's probably not worse than 34-year-old Jarrett McKinnon. And right now he's the clear-cut RB2.
He is the third cheapest RB2 in the market right now.
Yeah.
And that just makes zero sense.
On a top offense that everybody is excited about taking except for the RB2 somehow.
Yeah, because of CEH, he's just not exciting. He's a slogging third, but again, the contingent upside, if something ends up happening to Isaiah Pacheco, that in itself has value. Wide receiver here, what are you guys thinking?
Oh no, land it, Cash. Send us home with the right wide receiver here.
What's the scoop on Devontae Walker? You're the Baltimore guy.
Yeah, I mean, he's going to get on the field. He had something which none of the other Ravens receivers do. I think that there's going to be weeks where he contributes very little. But I think, if you're looking for a player to come on late towards the end of the season, then Devontae Walker works fine. And
nice
plenty of people, bring back on Tank Dell's definitely worthwhile.
A lot of week 14s within the buys, but this kind of just plays into not having a lot of information right now on the rookies, kind of being that dead period. Luke McCaffrey, Devontae Walker, Javon Baker, all these guys like Malik Washington, even within the 18th round, all it's going to take is you start getting information. And these guys, I want to play a little into this uncertainty at this particular time of the year, this window, with the potential that we end up getting strong buzz down the stretch. And again, it's not like it's the end all be all of what I'm targeting with positive CLB, but these are the kind of players at this time of year to be able to target that can jump multiple rounds.
Yeah. Last round rookie wide receivers is just take them. Whoever it is, it doesn't matter. In fact,
it doesn't feel good.
Yeah,
because we haven't heard anything, but these are the players that have the unknown upside.
Yeah, and your co-host on Fantasy Unleashed, Josh, says, good stuff, guys. You didn't draft Blake Curran, but I guess it's okay. Definitely worth checking out the latest episode of Fantasy Unleashed to hear why Josh can't stop drafting Blake Curran. In terms of this team, Tyler, once you've got a second, could you recap it for us?
We finished with a 2682 build like we prognosticated early on. Jalen Hurts, Brock Purdy at quarterback. You got to feel really good about getting access to two potential top 5 offenses with their quarterbacks stacked up. Running back, David Montgomery, Zach Moss, Brian Robinson, Zach Charbonnet, Tyler Algier, Clyde, why not, Edwards-Helaire at running back. Wide receiver, A.J. Brown, Brandon Ayuk, Tank Dell, Keenan Allen, Jacoby Myers, Marvin Mims, Luke McCaffrey, Devontae Walker, and at tight end, George Kittle and Cole Kmet.
I like all these players. I like his team. Cash, you?
Yeah, I think that this is a solid team. I mean, we got the alpha stack with AJ Brown and Jalen Hurts, be able to have the double with the week 17 correlation and David Montgomery. I mean, we mixed in 2 other separate week 17 mini correlations, running back and wide receivers between Keenan Allen, Zach Charbonnet, and Zach Moss and Marvin Mims. And then I just think that our group in total of wide receivers is solid. I mean, we got the older guy within Keenan Allen within the 5th round, which I'm more bullish on DJ Moore, but Keenan Allen, like maybe he ends up being the number one overall for Chicago. And I think it's just a nice balance of proven with upside and unknown with the late rookies that we got in Luke McCaffrey and Devontae Walker.
Yeah. And go ahead, Tom. Go ahead.
No, go on.
Well, another thing that kind of gets lost in the sauce of people chasing the next tank, the next Puka, are the people that forget that a majority of the late round rookies had spikes and were useful throughout the year and in the finals. Like Trey Palmer, Trey Tucker, those guys provided you, long splash play touchdowns over the course of the season. And so it's like, yeah, we might not unearth the next Tank Dell or Puka, but by chasing these rookie wide receivers late, we're just chasing guys that could get more work late as things implode or injuries occur or just like, bye week, switch flips, whatever, or late, they're out of the playoffs. Why not mix in the young guys? They have so many outs to getting more play time. They have outs to range of outcomes. And those are just profiles that we should be chasing kind of, without any sort of bias, because what we know right now is very limited. We have priors on these guys. That shifted with where they got drafted and where they got stuck. And it's shifting slightly with early news in camp. That's going to shift more with camp news. That's going to shift more with preseason work. That's going to shift more throughout the season on what those practices look like. So like, just take those guys, go sprinkle them in. And especially if in a build where you kind of pushed wide receiver for a while for the onesies, for some of the running backs. So I really like building through that with guys who have really wide range of outcomes, especially when it comes to just the finals. And we have a team built to advance us through and to ping pong us out. So, this team takes you out on a nice date, buys a nice bottle of wine, impresses you right off the bat, and you don't even make it out the door before it's full on lip action, full consensual, nasty, dirty, fun time dance. Just having a good old time.
Approved.
So, not to pivot completely off that perfect soliloquy, Cash, if you had like one or two convictions that you feel like are going to come true over the next month or two before drafts close, you spend a lot of time looking at ADP. I'm always impressed by how much you can see the bigger picture across multiple years about how things shift and stuff like that. Is there anything that stands out as something which you think is worth keeping an eye on?
Just kind of to the point that we were just talking about. I think that like right now is just a time to be able to lean, even though like I like to be able to mix in some of the quarterbacks within within my builds that are going within the late rounds. I think that like these quarterbacks are going to continue to go here for the remainder of Best Ball Mania season. And like you don't typically see, like even with like CJ Stroud, Bryce Young last year, like they just stayed where they were. So I think that right now, late playing into the players that we're just talking about, these rookie wide receivers, I think that the four that I'm kind of thinking about, Roman Wilson as he's falling, Luke McCaffrey, Devontae Walker, I guess, and maybe potentially Javon Baker. Like all of those rookie wide receivers, I think it's a good time to play into them. And then because we're continuing to see just month over month slow, but there is positive sentiment with the Seattle Seahawks as a percentage of ADP for the month of June. The biggest riser was DK Metcalf within the third round. It's very small, but notable, where within the first 2 months of the Best Ball Mania season, typically, running backs and wide receivers, you see movement, and as you see them start to rise, which over the course of this Best Ball Mania season, it's mainly been wide receivers, that quarterbacks fall in total. Last 2 months, Geno Smith has like been in the green both months. It's small, but it is notable. And I think those are two small points of reflection that you're going to start to hear the grub beat start to pick up. The offensive lines looking better within Seattle compared to years past. And my pick that I think is potentially going to pass a lot of the unknown rookie wide receivers that are going in round 6 is JSN. Right now for me, round 7, JSN is a guy that I'm trying to get pretty much any time that I can, and I'm cycling into JSN. Like high draft capital, year 2, play into that. This could be the year that Tyler Lockett falls off. Grub, like I want more JSN. I think I'm at 17%, but right now I want to be able to get more.
Love that. Yeah, I'm definitely high on the Seahawks, and I've had a little bit of bias against DK Metcalf over the years, thinking that sometimes he's been overpriced, but right now, absolutely smashing that. Shout out to King of Kings, chucking $10 into the chat to get Tyler to put the cowboy hat on.
No one's ever paid me to put clothes on.
It's truly appreciated and an absolute great way to end the show. If you haven't already, you absolutely must check out the Fantasy Unleashed podcast. It is linked in the description below. UFC, NFL, best ball, DFS during the season. Easily one of my must-listen to podcasts every week. You guys are incredibly smart. Particularly Josh throwing in $4.99. Hey, I mean, look, I was going to advertise your podcast regardless of you chucking money at me, but Josh,
they're
easily
great
one of the
follows
nicest
on Twitter
men around.
too. So follow them on Twitter. They're a lot of good shit, a lot of good teams, a lot of quiet tweet alpha. You got to sift through, but if you follow them, you don't have to sift as much.
Yeah, I'm not as active on Twitter as I probably should be, but no, I mean if you're looking for ADP content, take great pride in really grinding it down. So if you haven't listened to the content that we create, come check it out. Maybe it's for you.
Cool. We're going to get out on that note. I'll be back on Wednesday with Chris Allen of Fantasy Life for a DraftKings draft. Next Monday, back here on Underdog with the man himself, Bindles. Appreciate everyone checking us out, and we'll catch you all soon.